I will be watching the NFL this year, but not because I want to. Let me explain. I'm in 5 fantasy football leagues this year. Why? Because I'm good at it. Last year I won $1,200 in a fantasy football league. I happen to be good at it, okay? That's why I'm in it. If it wasn't for the fantasy football leagues, I probably wouldn't be watching. Because I, too, do believe that watching football happens to be very, very gay. Listen, folks, okay, here's the thing with football. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's great. But when you zoom out, when you really see the NFL in particular for what it is, you kind of get it. In ancient Rome, they had all of the sports in the Colosseum, and they gave out food and they gave out water. Why? It was to draw you away from everything else that was happening, from the political conversations, from the political actions that were taking place, what was happening with the emperor and things of that nature. And it's quite similar to how things happen here. You have, for example, a Kansas City Chiefs fan over here and a Buffalo Bills fan over here. Oh, I think Patrick Mahomes, I think Josh Allen's going to... And they end up getting so drunk that they fight each other. What happens? That energy, all that hostility that they have towards the other sports fan, towards the other team, because the people at the top have positioned you to be against this person, whether that's if you just like this team or if you're from the city that the team represents. They pin you against each other. They use tribalism to the best of their ability to pin you against your fellow human, fellow countryman, fellow person that lives in your city, so that they can distract you from what's actually going on, whether that's the war in Gaza, whether that's the funding of AIPAC, whether that's legit all of the pedophiles being in Congress and Senate, literally all of our politicians being pedophiles. Do you remember when Madison Cawthorn was saying, I was invited to a party for the Republican representatives and I came and it was a giant orgy? You probably don't, because they covered it up. Why? Because nobody cared. Because all of their aggression that could be funneled into a revolution is being funneled into aggression for sports. Think about it. You go to a sports game, okay? I'm not criticizing you, but people in general, you go to a sports game, right? You go to a Browns game, let's say. We live in Ohio. You go to a Browns game, and you're excited the whole day. Rightfully so. You spend a good amount of money for a good ticket to see that your team hopefully wins. Your fantasy players are playing. You maybe have a couple bets rolling. That's another thing we got to talk about at some point. Very predatory what they're doing to men our age, but whatever. So you go, you have all this time, all this energy invested. Maybe you get into a fight with a Bengals fan on the way, right? Maybe it's week 1. You get into a fight with a Bengals fan. Why not? And
shout out Browns Bengals week 1.
Yeah, okay. Go Browns, whatever. And you don't see the crumbling city that you're walking through. Why? Because you're so focused on the game. Maybe you're hammered and you're not paying attention. You're eating the food. You're taking in the atmosphere. It's week 1. It's game time, bitch. You're going to the game. After they win or lose, you walk back to your car and you don't see all of the homeless that are just begging for money on the streets. You don't see them. You don't hear them. People are starving on the streets. You have Vietnam veterans with no legs on the corner in the cold, and you just walk past it. You don't see the crumbling infrastructure. You don't see the buildings that are abandoned. You don't see all of the roads that are shit. Everything is shit. Why? Because you are too focused on this game. You are too focused on this sport that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. You spend your time, you spend your money, you spend your experiences in this constant state of aggression and excitement. Your whole day is positioned around this, right? You watch fantasy football podcasts. You listen to fantasy football podcasts. You watch things like The Herd. You watch First Take on ESPN. You watch all of these different sports shows, and it takes up all your time when, in fact, you could be using that time and aggression to potentially fuel a revolution, potentially learn more about politics, because those who don't know about politics are destined to be ruled by people that do. Furthermore, when you really get into the weeds about this shit, you realize how many of the people that make our laws are actually demons from hell. Quite literally demons from hell. And so when people don't have a lot of time in their day, they use sports as a way to unplug because it's the easy thing to do. You have a stressful day. You have a 9-to-5 that sucks. Most people do. I understand it. You have a family that you have to take care of. Lots of responsibilities. You just want time to unwind. But quite literally, we are living in shit. We are living in shit. There's no doubt about it. I mean, none of the people that live here can get jobs. Foreign laborers are being exploited. All the jobs that we used to have for manufacturing have been transferred elsewhere overseas. We don't have much. Everything is crumbling. You look at places like China. That's another thing. You look at places like China, even Iran, Russia even, they have good infrastructure on the surface, and it appears to be working. Stuff in South Korea, don't even get me started on the technology in South Korea. I wish we had a fraction of what they had, but we don't. Yet they tell us that we're the greatest country in the world, and we drunkenly sing the national anthem before every single NFL game. Oh, America, we cheer. But it's shit. It's all shit. And they want us to keep fighting with each other over these baseless sports teams that we pledge allegiance to some point in our life early on. And it's like, why? Why do they have so many of us by the balls? Yes, I'll be watching because I have a financial incentive, but if I didn't have the financial incentive, I would be against it completely. I just feel sort of disconnected to it, and I just feel like if more people were paying attention to what actually was going on, instead of placating to what the billionaires are telling us to do, we would be in a better position. And I have one more thing, and then I'll shut the fuck up. Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, if you remember a while back, they buried this story too, you probably don't, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. He was charged with soliciting prostitution in connection with a larger human trafficking investigation at the Orchids of Asia Day Spa in Florida. While Kraft was charged with soliciting, the prosecution ultimately dropped the charges against him because he's a Jewish billionaire, that's another thing, and other spa patrons after a court decision to suppress video evidence. The investigation, which involved multiple countries, uncovered potential human trafficking, but the charges against Kraft were specifically for soliciting prostitution, not trafficking itself. Guys, the people even that own the NFL teams are demons from hell. Jewish. But that's the point. These people, they just want you to not focus on what's actually going on. Do you understand?
I do.
They're demons from hell, all of them. And we are like the pros in 1984. We're literally the pros. They govern over us, and they say, here's 30% off in the NFL shop. Go buy something. And it's like we get so excited about everything that they're doing when in reality, I can't talk. When in reality, they're just pulling a cover over our eyes. Like, we don't understand what's actually going on. Even now, it is so hard to see what's actually going on. You have to do so much research. We are the 20%. We just acknowledge we are the 20% that know a decent amount of what's going on, but most people are political normies, and they can't take all the information in part because sports take up so much of their time. And I'm not an incel,
That was a hell of a rebuttal. I
And
think you buried me. You were very passionate about this, though, when we texted about it. I did not keep the I didn't keep the same energy, but my in-laws were over at the time.
You're good.
But
it's not even against you. I've been thinking about this for the past 6 months.
It's great, and I know that you brought it up even when, I mean, I don't know if you want to dox your brothers, but when they were arguing over the Browns and the Steelers, and you were sitting here going, "Do you know that Jews run the world?" Like,
yeah,
I get it. But again, I think I also then. My main concern, it really wasn't the sports thing. It wasn't, I think it's your life. Do whatever the fuck you want. The NFL's there for you. Consume it. If you want to consume college football, NFL, whatever. I'm not a big NBA guy. I've fallen off of that. Same. I'm not a big MLB guy. I mean, I like sports, but football's definitely my favorite. However, here's where I think I was just triggered by the weird and gay comment.
I understand.
Because the same thing happened that Nick said it, and I mean, again, I agree with everything that he says, but again, all these people are still video gamers. And I think that's my point that I'm trying to bring home. I hear every single point that you're making, and you're saying, "Oh, here's 35% off at the NFL store. You're going to buy this other guy's jersey, whatever." I have it pulled up here that in 2024, global spending on video games reached nearly $180 billion, surpassing combined total spent on professional sports.
That's crazy.
And I believe that is betting included.
That's a whole nother thing. You want to talk about betting in this country?
We can get into betting, but again, that's just where I stand on it. Is I'm very pro. Exposing the media, exposing the government, exposing the pedophile ring, exposing et cetera. But the weird and gay thing triggered me because everybody who is saying, "Oh, this is weird and gay," are still doing things for me that seem weird and gay. I'm not a big gamer. I haven't turned my Xbox on in 2-3 years, which.
I can't tell you when the last time I turned on an Xbox.
Right, but again, everyone calling them weird and gay are still the same. I would call people who are incels a little bit weird. I would call people who are gamers a little bit weird. I would say the same thing with Myron Gaines admitting that, hey, I really don't go outside unless it's for these debates. It's like these people who are saying things are weird and gay are not going outside and touching grass.
But also, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just they're not going outside and touching grass. They're the same people that are going to sit in a dark room for 6 hours and play a video game, but then critique people for getting together, having a relationship. Sometimes, I mean, I'd imagine if you and I were to sit down for a football game, we would be talking about politics while football's on the television. Same thing with my cousin. If we're to sit down and watch football, I see your side when it comes to engulfing yourself in sports. I think there's a fine line between where you and I are at, which regardless of, how you feel about sports, how you feel about politics, I think it's good and healthy to have multiple different interests. So no doubt. If you're a sports guy, you could be a sports guy like I am. I mean, I'm a football guy. I pay attention to what's going on, to the free agents and signings and all these things. I mean, I pay attention to my team, the team that I root for, which fucking sucks dick anyways. I mean, I'm sure by week 8 I'll be saying fuck the NFL and let's expose the Jews. But I also am the kind of person who can dictate what I'm interested in. So I can see that, and I don't let it take over my life. I'm not one of those guys that are just sitting down and watching ESPN for 6 hours. And, I see a little bit. I see, highlights when I'm scrolling Instagram or scrolling, social media. But then most of my time is taken up by politics, and it's taken up by what's going on in the world. Aside from, and I think that's, like you said, the 80-20 split where 80% of those people can say, I really don't care what's going on in the government. It's football season. I'm going to fully dive in. Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That is, I got 2 off days, but on those off days, I'm going to be checking the lines and checking money lines and spreads, and I'm going to be setting my fantasy lineup and all that stuff. I think it's a happy medium where you find yourself going, hey, I can be interested in this gladiator-esque sport, and still keep the tradition. That's where I find myself siding with Matt Walsh. As hard as it is to say, I get what he's talking about when it comes to tradition.
Yeah, I can understand it. Matt Walsh was also a never Trumper, by the way, in 2016. So that does.
Yeah, but so was JD Vance, and so was.
Well, JD might be the devil, so there is that. But no, I understand what you're saying. But you talked about sports betting, and this is something that the NFL in particular has done a lot recently. They've actually promoted the lines, which is quite shocking. They promote the lines to the games.
And how many ads do you see?
All of them. It's all of them. They read all of them quite literally.